All right, this is a function presentation in C++ by Devin Fitzsimons. What is a function? A function is like R2-D2. A function's like a little robot program within your program. So it's like R2-D2. It's like a little robot, only it isn't as smart. So it's like R2-D2 if R2-D2's memory got wiped and you need to tell it everything. You need to tell it what to bring, what to do, and what to return. So the function that we're going to create in our program is called void display rank int. So you need to tell it what its name is, tell it what it does in the very beginning of your program. You're going to declare it in the same way that you include IOStream or you use namespace standard. It's going to be in the very beginning of your program. So the void part tells R2-D2 what it's bringing back from its job when you send it on its job. So in this case, our little function called display rank, our little robot, isn't bringing anything back. So what's with display rank? Like I said, that's the function's call, that's its name. This is basically just the way to refer to it within the program. So it's good to have a name. Great, so our empty robot has a name. If we want to tell our robot, our little function, to bring things with it, we can, but we have to tell it. So if you don't tell your function what to bring with it, it won't work. So inside the parentheses is the parameter, is the thing that it needs to bring with it to work. The int in this case has our little function called display rank. Bring an integer with it. It could be a string or a char, or whatever you want, but you need to tell it to bring it with it so that when it gets to doing its portion of the program, it expects that to be there and it'll have it and it can run. If you don't tell it that, it won't work. It took me forever to figure out the return type and what you're bringing with it, and that part's a little bit tricky. So in this case, our empty R2-D2 isn't bringing anything back, but it needs to bring an integer with it. So void stands for our empty return, display rank is our little robot's name, and int is what it's going to bring with it. So it could be returning a number, it could be returning a bool, it could be returning lots of different things. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a void, but it's easiest to explain a void. So we wrote this program, and this is our program. Now up here you'll see void display rank int. Right below it you see void display suit int, which works the same as display rank, but it does something a little different. So we'll get to explaining it in a second. You'll see this is your functions defined up top in the same area that your include IOStream and in this case ctime, because we're building a little deck shuffler. All right. So our constant int, you may be familiar with a deck of cards, has 52 cards. So we need to declare this right here, and this right here is just our 52 cards, right? And so for int equals 0, or I equals 0, and I is less than the number of cards, right, which it is because I equals 0, so I plus plus deck I equals I. So this is basically initializing, making the cards exist, right? And then so for here, this right here is your shuffler, all right? This is your random number, all right? And so for I equals 0, I is less than number of cards, I plus plus, and then in here you'll see it indexes through your random number of cards, and this basically selects out deck I, which is right here, all right, and pulls you out your one card. All right, so your one card, here you have it. All right, so now it says display 4 cards. All right, so you know our program is going to display 4 cards. And so the way we wrote that is 4 in I equals 0 and then I plus plus, and it's basically going to display it's going to do this 4 times. It's going to run through this situation where it takes deck I, which it declared a minute ago, where it created deck I up here. All right, you're with me up here with deck I. All right, and so then it takes deck I, and there's your modulus of it, and then display suit is divided by 13 because there's 52 cards in a deck, so there's only 4 possible suits, whereas here this gives you 13 possible answers. This gives you 4 possible answers, so you have 13 possible numbers that your card could be, and then this is 4 possible suits that your card could be. So now here you'll see deck I. All right, so void display rank int rank. Oops, int rank. This is our function. All right, void. This was the part that confused me forever. Basically means that it's not returning anything. Our function, when we call it, when we say display rank here, it's just going to do what it does, right? And in this case, let's say rank were 0, okay? It would just make a cout statement, a sub space. That's all that would say. It would say that, and then it would be done doing its job. And then the next function that gets called, display suit, up here, because remember, this gets done 4 times. So the next thing that gets called is clubs, or diamonds, or hearts. So it's going to say ace of whatever, jack of whatever. So if the number's 11, if it kicks back 11, that's great. 11 will then say jack of. It's not actually returning the sentence jack of. Now, if you wanted to do that, you could. Let's say you set it up so it did all this, and then you changed it so this was an int, right? So we'll do that. All right, so now this is an int, and you had it here, you would have it return 11. All right, now why you would want to do it that way would be because up here somewhere you would have a sentence that said if 11, I probably wouldn't say exactly that, but it would essentially be if 11, then display your cout, jack of, right? But it's easier to write it this way. So we do. That's really the best reason I can give for why we do it as a void function instead of a return type function. But if you wanted to send the number 11 back, you could, were you so inclined. So then it's going to do this whole thing 4 times, and it's going to spit out 4 cards, because that's the way we wrote it. If we wanted to change it to 6, here, for the fun of it, let's make it 6. And then we'll run our program, and it should spit out 6 random cards. So let's see what happens. All right, there's our 6 random cards. Queen of hearts, 2 of diamonds, 6 of spades, 3 of diamonds, 9 of spades, 6 of diamonds. So lots of spades and diamonds, and only 1 heart. No clubs. You know, that's variance. So that's my explanation of how a function works. You need to declare your function up top, right? You need to write your function properly. So in this case, it's a void function, so it's not returning anything, so there's no return type. So it's just going to make a statement. Whenever your function just makes a statement, it's a void, or at least that's the way I try to remember it. And what it needs to bring with it. So in this case, it needs to bring an integer with it. And then when you call your function up here, this is kind of weird because we're sort of, so this is bringing with it this randomized little number up here that we created. And so it brings that with it, it checks it versus that number, and if rank is equal to 0, if the number it brings with it is equal to 0, then it'll do whatever the case is, right? But in this case, the number that it's bringing with it. I forget what we had. Let's see. Well, I don't know what we had, but whatever the number we had was, so here, you know, the 8 of diamonds, we must have an 8. And then here's an ace of clubs. So one of our numbers was a 0, and it was 0 on both sides. So it was divided by 4, and it was modulus, or divided by 13 and modulus 13 to give us a remainder. So it's kind of a difficult thing to explain, but basically a function is a little program that runs outside of your main program. Hope that that's a fair explanation of functions. Good luck.